Average Dude has something to say about...
Everybody, welcome back. This is episode 32. Billy Graham meets Romney and removes Mormonism cult listing. I used to look up to Billy Graham. I really did. For a large portion of my life, I noticed the things that he did. Televangelists especially tend to have, and very much deservedly so, a bad reputation for being shysters and going for personal indulgences, gold, money, so on and so forth. They tend to be men of gold rather than men of God. And Billy Graham just seemed to be that exception, that shining exception that actually had a purpose. I've actually been to his estate where he's got, if anybody's been there, you'll go to the entrance, you go in, and they have that mechanical cow that talks about him, and then you go through, and it was a nice experience, but at the same time, I can't be blind to the bad aspects of this man, because he's not as good as he's been made out to be. And once again, it's starting to show. Mitt Romney, Billy Graham has made it very clear for many, many, many years that Mormonism is a cult. That's according to him. I don't personally have any strong positive or negative feelings one way or the other about Mormonism, but Billy Graham made it very clear. It's been listed on his website. It's a cult. And then it magically disappears after he has this meeting with Mitt Romney. And I don't believe for a moment that Mitt Romney is just that good of a speaker, or that Mitt Romney's money really magically altered. Billy Graham's been very successful. He's met people that are very well off before, very rich. I don't believe that it was money that was the motivator. Unfortunately, I do believe it's politics. It's personal politics coming before God. And, oh, God. Let's go over this one. Because what happened was his son, Franklin, endorsed Mitt Romney, slammed Barack Obama, whatever. Plenty of people take their favored sides and do that. But then Billy Graham meets with Mitt, and then it all changes. He buys these political campaign ads after meeting with Romney, and then it's a whole different story, which proves once and for all in this country, in the USA, politics matter more than religion, especially with the Republican Party. You put an R on it, and ooh, yeah, it doesn't matter how ridiculously corrupt and out of touch this person is, because a Republican R will stampede towards this one. Oh, man. You'll love this quote, because in his campaign, he mentioned, quote, "Vote for biblical values this November 6th and pray with me that America will remain one nation under God." And the explanation that came afterwards from Billy Graham's spokesman, A. Larry Ross, I have no idea what the A stands for, I really don't care. Graham, quote, is challenging citizens, particularly the faith community, on how to vote rather than for whom to vote. Larry, how to vote rather than for whom to vote? What difference does that make? That's a difference that makes no difference. Telling them how to vote rather than for whom to vote, it's the same thing. It all boils down to vote for Mitt. Oh! Boy, I tell you, it just sucks to be capable of critical thought. I looked up to this guy, but let's keep going, because they continue to explain this away. It's not about politics. Okay, quote, "This ad is consistent with both the mission of the BGEA, in other words, Billy Graham's Evangelical Association, and Billy Graham's personal methodology to diligently and consistently remain politically neutral and nonpartisan," emphasis on nonpartisan, "throughout his public ministry." Ross was quoted as saying this. How? First, his son, Franklin, publicly endorses Mitt and slams Barack. And then second, Billy Graham meets with Mitt Romney. And then third, removes the cult listing of Mormonism from his website, which has been up there for the longest time. And then number four, buys these campaign ads, and we're supposed to believe that this is nonpartisan? Bullshit! It's completely partisan. It is R, elephant, Republican. Something that is not new with Billy Graham. He consistently goes for the Republicans over and over. Doesn't matter how crappy they are or what kind of crap they pull, like Nixon. And I'll get to Nixon. But Mormonism was considered a cult by Graham until this meeting. What, did the magical eraser just come into existence and erase it off, and we're going to pretend like it was never there to begin with? Billy Graham Evangelical Association removes the cult listing, and it says, and get ready, drum roll, quote, "We do not wish to participate in a theological debate about something that has become politicized during this campaign." You just politicized it! Are you kidding me? You're not wishing to participate. You just did. Oh, McFly. Oh, God. But as I said, Billy Graham, for all the amazing things that he has done, he's been involved in a bunch of ridiculous... Well, let's go over it. Okay, as I mentioned before, Billy Graham has been involved in politics for a long time. That has not changed. He was very, very much against communism back in the day. That was normal. Communism bad, bad, bad. Communism bad when you're here in America. Unless it's North Korea. Near the end of the 90s, Billy Graham was praising North Korean dictator Kim Il-sung. You know, Kim Jong-il's father. The current dear leader's grandfather, the one who started North Korea's nightmare, and Billy Graham's, and I quote, praised him as a, quote, different kind of communist. Yeah, Billy, communism bad, unless it's North Korea, right? Ooh, but... I think that a lot of Christians were given a rude awakening when it came to the Nixon tapes that were brought, that saw the light of day. Because, and I know Jews got to hear that, be very, very critical of the people that you truly think are so connected and walk the walk very well with God. Billy Graham passed himself off as being very loving and just an amazing guy, and you know what? He harbored a very personal, dark aspect of himself that came to the light of day. And again, you see this when it's recordings that happen and they don't know that it's happening, and you start to truly see who these people really are off camera. He made some really crappy comments about the Jews. And Billy Graham's response was, quote, "Although I have no memory of the occasion, I deeply regret comments I apparently made in an Oval Office conversation with President Nixon." In other words, he did it. It's the, I don't remember that. In other words, he did it. But he's not going to go on record as saying that he did, because that's a usual tactic with those that play the whole political scene. I have no memory of such and such. It happened. And then he says, "They do not reflect my views, and I sincerely apologize for any offense caused by the remarks." Billy, I know that you're in your 90s, but they did reflect your views. They came out of your mouth, and whether it was a moment of weakness or not, you have anti-Semitism in you. You are not the flagship, wonderful person that you have presented yourself to be. And when it comes to the Bible, and if you read the Bible, usually champions of God do have those weaknesses. It's understandable. It doesn't make it good, but it's at least understandable. But to deny it, yes, Billy, It's in you. And then after he said that, more Nixon tapes came out where he's referring to the Jews as the synagogue of Satan. Way to go, Billy. Yeah, they don't reflect your views at all, boy. Oh, Lord. So in conclusion, I want to stress that this is a very disappointing episode for me to do because, as I said, I really looked up to Billy Graham for a long time growing up, and I just can't do it anymore. But part of that is because he's a human being, and like other champions, because he has done amazing things, but all champions have darkness in them. They're human. They have problems, and Billy Graham does too. And his biggest problem is inconsistency. It's like he's trying to battle his darker side and be a champion, and then every so often it creates inconsistency. His darkness comes out. This is a guy that during a period of time when it was not popular to stand near blacks, did so. He was a major proponent for getting rid of segregation back in the day. He very much believed that black people and white people should be able to stand together in faith. That was great. But then he turns, I mean, we have a black president, and now he turns around and endorses a candidate and a religion that he considered to be a cult for the longest time. It's flip-flopping. It's like a politician. Like, where does he really stand? It doesn't make any sense. This is a guy who, for the longest time, said communism was bad, and then in the late 90s shocked everyone by saying, oh, but this communism is good with North Korea. Every now and then, Billy Graham lets out something that just makes you realize he's human. And unfortunately, that means you're going to be disappointed. Take care, everybody.